illustrate about the commons. Just a detail that I find hard to explain. So the commons, as I'm defining it, is that which people have in common, discover they have in common, and only that. So if 2, 4, 6, 8 people are discussing something and they all agree on it, that is common. If one person disagrees, then it may be common for the rest of the group, but it is not a perfect commons. There's one individual that doesn't see it as common. And that's really important. If you want a pure commons, something that everybody in the group agrees with, then we have to be able to figure out how to negotiate that. And so there's the pure commons, but then there's the negotiated commons. Okay, we don't all purely agree, but we want to maintain the commons. How do we do that? And then that can be negotiated. It's not pure, but it can be negotiated. And finally, defined. The interesting thing here is that the defined commons, and this is where I was really wanting to target, the defined commons is when the Christian and the Muslim and the Jew and the I've got a friend that believes in fairies. He's got a religion based off of the idea of the fae. I can't remember what he calls it. But these kind of ideas, each of those individuals is free to bring their belief into the commons, not as common, but as a defined commons. In other words, it's a difference between saying, this is true, and I believe this is true. And just that shift right there changes things. Now, another person may say, okay, you have said, I believe this is true, but I don't see how you could even possibly say that. I don't understand how you could have that commitment. Then we start to have a dialogue. And it could be that in that process, lots of assumptions, lots of the commitments of that person are revealed. Now, just to tip my hand, I don't think any of us have an absolute reason for believing anything. We all have these kind of personal experience and personal reasons for the things we believe. Even the scientific method. The scientific method cannot prove the scientific method. All it can do is say, okay, it worked that time, it worked that time, it worked that time, that kind of thing. So, when we are defining our own personal views and placing those in the commons to share, this is a wonderful thing, because number one, the commons itself can learn from our personal commitments. Number two, it is a chance to actually see how our personal beliefs stand up under fire, but ideally at least in an environment that is not about hostility, because it's not about taking over the commons. It cannot be, because the commons is that which is agreed upon, and only that. So if everybody is there to explore the commons, and everybody there is contributing their defined personal commons into that space, then it behooves us all to learn from each other in whatever way that looks like. It might be, oh, that's an interesting belief you have there. I'd like to have a conversation about that. I'd like to try to learn from you and see if there's something that we can all agree in that. Let's discover the commonality between your personal beliefs and my personal beliefs as we are defining them currently in the commons. And the definitions can change, and the meanings can change. And I'm using definition very loosely there. I don't necessarily mean an analytical definition. I simply mean, Christianity equals this, Muslim equals this, and this can be practices, it can be commitments, it can be visions, it can be a story, it can be anything that can be slotted into that, because ultimately, analytical thinking and defining, while a wonderful tool, is not, at least according to someone like Ian McGilchrist, who's done a lot of, read up on the guy. He's amazing, if you haven't already, obviously. Has discovered that there are patterns. in our thinking between the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere. And they are not the traditional, well, it's the logical side and the artistic side, because it turns out you need both hemispheres to do logic well, and you need both hemispheres to do art well. You need both hemispheres to do most things well. But what is clear, however, is the way they analyze the world. The left hemisphere is about what it can grip, what it can grasp, what it can focus on, and try to own, if you will, or achieve. Whereas the right hemisphere is about the interconnectedness of things. It is the prey keeping an eye out for either a mate or a predator, that kind of thing. While, one eye of the bird is looking to see if there's a prey or a predator around them, and the other eye is looking to see, is there some food right there that I need to grip, and how do I grip it? And the way that translates into language in our beliefs is that our left hemisphere tends to try to define things out and make it into a grippable form. This action, this belief, this claim. Whereas the right hemisphere is about, how does this connect me with a sense of God? How does this connect me with other people? How does this connect me with capital T truth? Or even that sense within us sometimes of there is no truth, or in some of us at least. So yeah, I think I've done a pretty good job of that. I want to re-dial in, though, to this idea of the defined commons one last time. The defined commons is like a library of beliefs that a group have allowed its members to catalog into the common space, so that those personal beliefs can contribute to the value, overall value of the commons, as well as an opportunity to test those beliefs and make them more robust, more refined, to discover the weaknesses and strengthen them. Humility is always the first rule of the commons, and that means that even if we have absolute commitment, a sense of absolute certainty of our own beliefs within us, that when we step into the commons, we recognize, but I'm just one person and I could be wrong. Hello. Thank you for joining me. This is all I've got, and I see the highs there, and I appreciate your time. And now I got to figure out how to solve this. Thank you.